Welcome to the Everyday Magic Podcast. I'm Anya Rock.
And I'm Dr. Sophia Trivena.
We've been best friends for 25 years, united by the belief that no matter what life throws at us, we can always find the magic. Join us every week as we dive into our most intimate conversations about sex, money, intuition, and building our company, Sophania, a merger of our names and the best of us. Hi, Goddess.
Hi, Goddess. You look incredible. That's where we have to start. I mean, you always look incredible. You look extra special, incredible today.
Thank you. This is a dress that I got from my new brand shoot.
Love it. Say more. Tell us more.
I'm doing some refresh photos. So I'm sort of doing a soft relaunch of my coaching and my branding and visuals. I'm such a visual person. So I feel like the visuals and also the photographs just sort of capture where I'm at. And I actually looked at my website the other day and I was like,
I'm not that person anymore.
Totally. Yeah.
Really? Is that what you thought?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. I have a new, like a half-day photo shoot, but I have some new wardrobe pieces that feel very vibrant. My colors are all vibrant, and I'm really excited and really stepping into this priestess of pleasure, coaching, mentoring, guiding women back to their own erotic energy as a way to magnetize and a way to be fully expressed in their life.
I love this. Okay, so why does someone come to you for coaching? And what is the journey like for both of you? I'm so curious. Actually, I know what you do, and I get to experience it at times when you have goddess gatherings or, you tell me so much and I get to hear about it. But if I was someone that's listening to this podcast and I heard you talk about this and I was like, I wonder if I'm supposed to work with her. Like, what would that even look like?
Yeah. And I mean, I think so much of it is a reflection of the journey I've been on, right? And my journey of going from disconnected from my intimacy, from my self-intimacy and my intimacy and partnership, and blowing up my life and letting the things that felt really out of alignment go, and being immersed in that experience for the last 2 years, and finally feeling like I'm coming out on the other side more whole, more grounded, and more embodied. And the pleasure coaching being the cherry on top of the missing ingredient to my life, to my work, and the thing that I can share my story so authentically and help women to reconnect. And I think women hear my story and say like, oh, I have a little bit of that, or I want more of that, or I'm also feeling disconnected from my partner, or I'm questioning, I have everything I'm supposed to want and I feel lonely.
Oh, what? Did you feel that way?
100%.
Oh, goddess.
Yeah.
Oh.
Really disconnected, really lonely, really alone. And yet I had a person sleeping beside me. Right? So it's not just
I've experienced it.
Physical intimacy was missing, but intimacy and caring and curiosity and wanting to really know me on a deeper level and understand me and go on the journey with me. And as I grew and as I explored different parts of myself, very often I would come back from a huge experience, and unless I was just sharing because I really wanted to share, I didn't feel like I was met with a lot of curiosity. So in my reclamation of my pleasure and my sovereign intimacy and my sovereign pleasure, I believe I have a really special code to share with women on releasing shame and recognizing the stories and seeing them and questioning them and asking whether they are serving us anymore, and aligning to a higher vision of what's possible for us in life as mothers, as women, as partners, as business entrepreneurs, when we ignite and alchemize our hurt, our anger, our grief through our erotic energy.
Love this.
Does that all make sense?
It totally does. And I still actually want to dive deeper, because we asked about, what to talk about. And one of the things someone said was, I don't think guys talk about coaches, being coaches, but I don't know what you do. And are you different kinds of coaches? So I think this is a great opportunity to go deeper.
Yeah.
And I'm called to it because I just finished this book, The Power of the Divine Feminine Intimacy. And after I finished writing it, people have been reading it and saying to me, like, I don't feel so alone in this anymore, because depending on what study you look at, 40 to 50% of marriages are sexless.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
huge.
Millions of people.
Yeah. And there's a lot of women not just not having sex, but enduring sex that's not good.
Okay.
And I'm not a sex coach. I'm not I'm not working with couples at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
My focus is on the woman who wants to reclaim it for herself first.
Okay.
So I think that's step one before we have to be in self-intimacy, and we have to mine for what's blocking or stopping me,
Mm-hmm.
and what do I truly desire at whatever stage. So some of my clients are married and some have left partnerships and are out in the field for the first time. And so they have different desires or wonderings. There are different levels or stages. There's women I work with that maybe haven't even created the temple of their body yet. They haven't created space in their life, slowed down, created a morning sacred ritual, embodied their own inner goddess. So I'm working with those women in a different way than someone who began that journey and maybe is closer to where I was 2 years ago, is in the midst of like, I'm blowing it all up and I need support. I need guidance as I find a new GPS to where the future me is.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this because if I'm one of the women in that situation, which I have been actually, not for long, but I experienced it, and you just feel hopeless because you're trying everything you can to get him to, or get us to, and you're powerless if they don't want to.
Right.
And what you're saying is that you have the agency to be able to strike out on your own and do something on your own. And I feel like I've heard women say, I'm afraid to do that because what if I find out I don't want to be with him? So what do you do about that?
Totally. I mean, sometimes the medicine gives us what we need, not what we want, right? I've had people say to me, oh, I'm afraid to microdose because I could also end up blowing up my life and leaving my partner. And I'm like, I think if you have to ask the question, if it's what you're most afraid of, in my experience, there's some truth in there that's worth mining. It doesn't mean that you have to have that outcome, but you will at least get to what's being ignored. And you're avoiding it doesn't actually make it better. So, for example, that person could say, I'm afraid that I'll find out I don't want to be with my husband. Maybe, but at least you have that information and you can then decide like, well, why not? What would it take to be fully in my erotic sexuality, my energy, my creative aliveness, and ask him, create an invitation for him to meet me there? Will he look different, feel different? And maybe it's a no. And maybe you'll make a different decision then. But pretending it doesn't exist doesn't help either.
Right. So even if you decided, okay, I am going to do this work and I'm now in my fully expressed flow and he is not, and he's not doing it for me, you could still decide, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to self-pleasure. I'm going to express through art. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to take this energy and this life force and I'm going to do something with it. And I'm going to stay in the marriage is better than staying in the marriage and not looking at it and staying clamped down.
Yes.
Right?
And a lot of our work is learning how to receive pleasure. So I do also think that with the right partner, there's a lot of variables, but sometimes when that energy changes and we shift out of our more dominant sort of masculine role and we practice receiving pleasure, we invite the masculine in our life, we invite the other partner to engage differently. Then we're often in roles in partnerships. We're kind of in like, we're in patterns. And so it's a pattern disruptor. I'm going to change my energy. That's all I can do. I can't ask him or her to change, but I can change me. And then that energy will create a change in the field. And then we can work with that differently.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you're really empowered then, and you're feeling your life force, and you're not in that unhealthy state of collapse and everything. So what do you do as a coach to support a woman in that kind of journey?
We're talking, so like, you mean, how do we do it in practicality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I said, I want to work with you, what would the conversation go like?
So we would be whether you want to work with me individually or in a group, right? I do group. In fact, I'm launching one very soon.
Amazing.
Yep.
Is there pros and cons to those two?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, so working with me privately is sort of, I have the least amount of time. So it's the most expensive way to work with me. And you miss out on the reflection of having other women be in the community, right? Seeing there's a real power in the sisterhood of another woman reflecting your beauty or your, oh, I'm really watching you receive pleasure differently. And it's beautiful. And I can reflect that to her, but to also have it's like amplified by multiple people.
Beautiful.
And retreats, which we've created right here on the podcast together, some ideas and seeds for retreats. And because it's really the most powerful way is to be immersed together in person. I love online and it's incredible and I love being able to work remotely. And there's just something magical about being in person.
Especially at the beautiful places you like to go to host your retreats and the sacred places on earth. And you pick really special places.
Yeah. And my signature program is going to be Erotic Alchemy.
Okay.
And taking, using tools and practices that I've gathered over the years and in this most recent deep dive in my pleasure certification, tools and practices, sacred tools and practices to help us stay in our bodies and to navigate like the real stuff that comes up, the anger, the frustration, scarcity around money, or like, what if I start these practices? What if I get in my turn on or I take on something around pleasure and then I'm confronted with the reality of my partnership? There's a little bit of a scarcity in that. What if it isn't all the same? So we can use tools and practices to move through that energy and to celebrate not just the beauty and the light energy, but also the full spectrum of a woman and all of her emotions, and bring in the signature of the erotic to help us to move through them.
Beautiful. So you would work with people to have specific strategies for their life and also give them techniques that you've trained in and that so tell me what you get reflected to you with people that experience your genius. Like, what do people say to you after you share these codes with them?
Yeah, a sense of freedom, there's always a sense of like, oh, this feels right. This is what I was missing.
It's like you bring them back to themselves.
Yeah. And that's really the culmination, not just of pleasure coaching, but of all of the work I've ever done, is to bring women back to themselves as whole and enough, that they are reconnected to themselves, to choose themselves, to prioritize themselves in a world that says everyone else's needs matter more than yours. That many of the women I work with are mothers and partners and entrepreneurs, and they're spinning so many hats at once, and they've lost themselves. And they're literally at the bottom of their list. And so to give them not only the tools, but the space and the permission to ask what they truly desire. And many of them just feel like that's a revolution in itself.
Right.
And that they feel a freedom, that they feel permission, that they feel held, that they feel more powerful, that they start to see how they walk into rooms and feel different and people respond to them differently, that they feel more alive.
I watched you do that for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you've helped me do that for myself many times over the many years.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful, fulfilling experience to know that my lived experience now can impact someone else, and to know that I'm in a connection with the intuition and the journey that I've been on to be in this place. It feels really good.
I love it. Yeah, perfect. I love this. I will also additionally reflect that I feel like another code of genius you have is when people are speaking about their reality, and especially when they're up against the resistance, that they can have this liberation, or that they deserve it, or that it's possible given their circumstances, or what will happen if they do. I've watched you with me and with many be able to help them identify that core belief that they're speaking to and actually help them bring it to the forefront. And it's been a varied design parameter for their reality, and for good reason. It's happened to them and they have lots of data to back it up. But you invite, let's bring this out there and let's see, like, does this have to be true going forward? And is it worth the cost of what you're living to not look at this and even try on a notion that's different than it?
Yeah.
And I think that's really incredible, because you can just be like, oh, like, actually, maybe I can. Like that whole thing, oh, I can't do that. Can't you? Like, why? But why? Where did that come from? And where did that come from? And what if you did wear your laundry and your husband wasn't interested? Would that be so bad? Like, is that horrible? Like, you can help people try on realities.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think especially around pleasure, there's a lot of taboo. There's a lot of things that we think are okay or not okay. And I'm in my own practices and experiences pushing my edges and looking for those stories, questioning them. And I think that also makes me able to hold that space for another woman to be able to do that. So thank you for that reflection.
I have one more.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you liked it, because I'll just keep going.
Okay.
So I've felt this for a very long time. When my dad was teaching me to play the African drum, the djembe, when he was close to me, I could play it. And when he was further away from me in the room, I couldn't play it as well. And he'd come closer and I could play it. And I noticed this. And then I went to this, when I owned the co-working space in Honolulu, someone hosted a spoon bending workshop. About 50 people were there. And you don't actually use your mind to bend the spoon, as in you don't just hold the spoon and it bends as you look at it. You hold like a knife even, and you imagine and believe that you can make it go soft and bend it. And in that intention, focused on that metal, it goes soft and it goes really warm and you can twist it, and then it goes hard again and you touch it and it's really hot. Wow. And so this quantum physicist was teaching everyone to do this. I was the last person to get it, the single last person. My mind scientifically believed it, but I just couldn't. It was my last, and I was the last one. And everyone's like, oh, look at it. Oh, and they're just like bending knives and bending things. And I was like, I want to do it. But when the quantum physicist came near me and was showing someone beside me, I did it. And he walked away and I couldn't do it. And he came back and I could do it. This is what I'm getting to. Is I believe that when you're in the vibrational field of someone that has mastery over something, your vibrations pick up that mastery, and the codes literally get transferred to your vibrational field so that you can access it easier and better.
This is what we mean by having the codes when we're sort of sharing them with people, right?
I think so. Is I have the codes as in being in my energetic field by having access to me and me giving access through attention. They literally talk about the modern economy being the attention economy, right? So this is attention, where you put your focus, and where your attention goes, energy flows. So if you really focus your energy on I've done, if anyone that's done Reiki, or I've done hands-on healing where I focus my energy on my hands and that person's energy shifts and I get information about it because our vibrations are communicating with each other. It's quantum entanglement. It's quantum physics. So
just that.
There's this.
It's like, it's just quantum entanglement.
You can look up quantum entanglement and go down the rabbit hole all you want. I do it all the time. And it's basically vibrations that come into interaction are in communication. Yeah, they're in communication now. And you can turn this one, and this one will turn faster than the speed of light, meaning a message didn't get sent.
Right.
They are just responding and they don't know how it works. I have a feeling I understand it. But long story short is, you're entangling quantumly your field with my field when we make an agreement, when we sign a contract to be in a coaching agreement. I've had someone sitting across from me and like sent me the PayPal and signed the contract on their phone, and they were like, whoa. And I was like, do you feel like sort of a champagne-y lightness? I'm like, that's the angel frequency. I hold that. It took me decades to cultivate living 24/7 in the angel frequency. And when someone and I make an agreement to be together, this is why I have to be so careful with sacred sexuality. And this is why I'm careful in sacred business. Everything I agree to, our vibrations start to merge.
Right.
And if they're not resonant and additive, as you've said, then they're detrimental. Right. And I've actually been very confident about something I've done. And then I went and talked to two people that I then later found out were both foundering and confidence about their entrepreneurship, and they confided that into me. But I walked over them and I started to feel doubtful about something I was just doubtful. I was just confident of standing 5 feet away. And I was like, why did I walk over here and all of a sudden feel doubtful about it? So we're picking up each other's codes. And so when someone says, I have the codes, my personal trainer, Axel, I started working with him, and I've done the same exercises not with him. All of a sudden, my body starts changing. I dropped 4 pounds in 2 or 3 weeks. Like, he has the codes. He is a transmission of embodied vibration of this form of health.
Right.
So I feel like when you're in a container with you, or when you're in one-on-one, and container being a coaching journey of multiple sessions, right? Just to be clear, but any kind of contract or agreement, or go to your retreats, your vibration of you going through this, and this is why good coaches can talk about the almost unbearable things they've gone through to have the lived wisdom they have. But it's not just the lived wisdom. It's not just the book. It's not just the crystallized framework.
Right.
It's not the I get you. It's the vibrational transmission to your cells of here's the acceleration of how to go through this, because I went through it and my body holds it, and now your body holds it because we went into an agreement.
Yeah. So and it's the holding of the container, right? You're holding an energetic field. Similar, when I remember doing plant medicine for the first time, and people in the plant medicine world will say, like, the medicine starts working the moment you say yes. So I might sign up for ayahuasca 5 weeks from now, but suddenly things are falling away or reorganizing. And it's because I'm preparing, or the field is preparing me for this journey.
That's
and
exactly
I think it's really similar to
exactly
coaching
the same
container.
Thing. Yes.
Held by the right person. I don't think that's an across the board statement.
Yeah.
But I know for sure in my field and in your field that we hold our containers and our agreements and our clients. And that's why we work with soul aligned people. That's why we're careful and trust that some of the right people are coming to us.
Right.
Because I've watched you do it, and I have the same experience even being with you both inside and outside of coaching, right? I've done containers, we'll use that word since we've started, but that I have an experience when I'm with you, and then especially when at first I would go away and I'd be like, okay, I have to kind of like tune in differently than when I'm right here in the field with you, right? You do have that sort of, you hold that energetic frequency differently.
Yeah, it's amazing you notice it. And I notice it with you as well. And I think a lot of people notice it, and then we put us together. There's that, right? Pew, 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 pew.
Power.
Stefania. But it's the drummer coming close to me. It's the quantum spoon bender coming close to me. And all of a sudden I can do something I didn't think I could do, right? And so it's like the impossible becomes possible in a field of someone that made it possible, right? And so I think it is interesting. So I'll just share that a lot of coaches say, like, I have a container offering. My container offering is you sign up with me for, like, my container is 12 weeks, 12 1-hour sessions. You can schedule them, whenever you want within those 12 weeks, preferably once a week. You can cancel them 48 hours before.
Right. You have agreements just like you would with anyone.
Right. And so it's basically everything that would end up in a contract, which I have for that container. But it's basically, this is the field, and this is what we will do, and this is what we won't do. This is where texting can happen and not happen. Here's how emergency sessions can happen, not happen. So everyone knows what they're signing up for. And usually there's an intentionality that holds that field that you're committing to. And for me, it's always, we're going to do an angel session where your guides are going to tell you the 5-7 important transformations that are going to happen to you for you in these 12 weeks. As long as you show up to the process, they can help me help you get to here, which is usually quantum leaping years in advance, if not lifetimes. So having said all of that, we're talking about holding a container. Coaches have containers, and you've been in a container with me, and I've been in a container with you. And once you sign that agreement, you're in that person's field of energy 24/7, all the time. And you've also, in doing that commitment, you've aligned your intentions to go towards those outcomes.
Right. Well, so you've created a collective North Star, ideally.
Right.
Right. You're saying, because you're committing to a transformation, so you're creating a North Star together.
Yeah.
That you want to mutually go on. Right?
And you have a trifecta of support. You have yourself with your will aligned to it. Then you have the universe, the physics of the universe, that all of nature is conspiring to take every sentient being on their soul plan. So now you commit in alignment with your soul plan, the metaphysics of synchronicities and signs and dreams starts working in your favor, right? And then you have your guides and angels, because once you commit to move along your soul plan, they can help you. As long as you're going in that direction, they can help. When you don't, you don't. And if you don't call them in, they can't help you. So when you commit to a container with me, you're committing to work with your guides and my angels on your soul plan in these specific ways. And I always say it's not just the time that we're in the sessions. It's almost like the whole 12 weeks, the physics around you is going to change.
Right.
There'll be so many times people come up and say, all of a sudden, I haven't talked to my mom in 3 years and she reached out right after I committed to this. I'm like, great. The field is bringing you the medicine, the journey. The sessions are to support you through the journey, but they're not the entire journey.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think there's an interesting thing about containers. You're signing up for a lot more. And so people are like, I don't need a coach, or I don't need to do this, or I can do this on my own.
That was a big one we heard for a long time, right?
I can do this on my own. Yeah. There was a flurry of people saying I can do this on my own. And I questioned too, I think on an earlier podcast, there's someone that's really high price point, that's very connected and knows how to bring people like me to the right people and places and stages and podcasts.
And you had the same question. Can I do this on my own?
I was more, my bigger question is, can I just do this with the angels? Can just me and the angels do this? But he has embodied codes on earth that the angels don't have. So I think most people are like, can I do this on my own? I'm like, can't just me and the angels do this?
That's true. Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
But they're like, we've not lived the path that he has lived and helped hundreds of people get to. I've worked with 200 CEOs in 25 countries. I hold codes. And people accelerate really, really fast because they come into the field and they commit. I have intimacy codes. I've met someone who was in a 7-year sex community, open sex community with 35 people. They were all together. They're all friends. And he talked to me for 5 minutes and fell in my arms crying, knowing that he was denying intimacy rather than expanding it, that he had been lying to himself. I'm not saying everyone that's doing that does that, but he realized in just standing and talking to me and looking in my eyes, how many men have fallen into my arms crying, realizing just in kissing me or being intimate with me or spending time with me, just from feeling the codes of an actual embodied feminine that isn't totally vulnerable in intimacy, shakes their codes. And all of a sudden they know intimacy in a whole new way and fall into my arms crying, going, I thought I knew intimacy, Yeah. So it's really interesting that we both are so intentional, because that only happens when someone's, what do you think? Like, you can co-create with me here. I think that happens when someone has gone through the journey themselves.
What, the intentionality, you mean?
Yeah, like what makes a container be that potent that someone's worth 5-6 figures working with them, which we are.
I mean, I think it's the potency of the masterful, right? They're a master already of their craft and their experience, and not just having, as you said before, lived the experience, but knowing then how to translate that into holding it for someone else, to hold that sacred space and to guide them with both the masculine and the feminine. Yeah. Of knowing, right, how to redirect someone when they're spinning off into something that's taking them somewhere they don't need to go.
Right. And getting really, really, really soft when they want to plow through at the masculine and just move to the next thing of going, let's get soft and let's be with this and slow it down and let's nurture this. So being able to bring both the masculine and feminine, I think, is hugely important for a very held container. Like, I think we both can go really soft when someone needs it, even if they don't want to. And we can also be very firm and keep them on the rails, even if they don't want to. I mean, when I babysat your kids, I don't know, 10 years ago, it was a long time ago. They were young. They were
like in
Chicago. Yeah, they were little kids. They were like, above toddler, but not much.
I think Nuala was probably 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I remember the house we were in.
Yeah.
If you're telling the story, I think you are.
Yeah. And you went to a baseball game or you went to something. And Nuala she really wanted me to rub her back. You know how she likes that? Like, I was tickling her back and she's like, don't stop yet. Don't go. And I was like, and then I think you called and I said, like, Nuala's just not going to sleep. And you're like, the whole motto is firm but kind. Just tell her, Nuala, it's time to go to sleep. And I came back in, I'm like, honey, it's just time to go to sleep. And she rolled over and fell asleep. And it was firm but kind. Yeah. And I feel like I've always mothered myself that way. Brought my mothering energy to being a professor and a coach, with a time to be firm and be like, you can't go down this path right now. This is what it's costing you. And let's talk about this. Let's get really real. And if not now, when? And if not with me, with who? Let's go there. We're going to go slow. I'm going to be gentle, but we're going there. And I think we both have that ability to be, because you've done it with me. You've been like, I've been like, but what about this? And you're like, that's not going to happen. You have to get focused. Just go and do the thing. Like, when I was selling my company, you're like, I'll buy your ticket to go back and just sell your company. You can do it. It's your company to sell, or take it back and start running it again. Just go do something. And I was like, Right. So
Sure.
I think that firm but kind
Mm-hmm.
is a really beautiful way to hold a container for coaching. And I think having a lot of modalities to draw from, because a lot of people that I've heard complain about coaching is they're like, it's just cookie cutter. They gave me a bunch of video modules to watch and then I was supposed to go and have a Q&A, but like.
Well, I think too, the thing about coaching, and certainly, you know, there's teaching and there's coaching, and coaching is like, you actually have the answer and I'm here to guide you to find the answer. I'm not here to just tell you what the answer is.
Oh, yes, goddess. So well said.
Good coaching, and I think we all need coaches, is we all have blind spots.
Yes.
And it's someone in your corner, in your world, and whether it doesn't always have to be a coach. I do have a coach at the moment, but like, it's
sometimes
often
we've been each other's coach as best friends.
And there's often other mentors, right? I always think you should have a coach and a therapist.
Yeah, me too.
Different, because they do
very different things.
Very different. One's forward looking, one's, present or back, like where's that coming from? But it's ultimately so different because you have the answer, and I'm going to ask the right questions for you to come up with the answer yourself.
I love this. So I love that, because even when I was a professor, I was like, I would say to my students, I'm not going to teach you anything. We're going to co-create what we want to learn. I'm going to guide the learning process, but I'm going to learn as much from you as you're going to learn from me. We're going to bring in experts. We're going to do research. We're going to discover things all of us don't know. I'll use my extra years to frame it and bring what is known so far. And that's how we're all going to learn together. And we'd all sit in a circle. I'd never sit at the front. But I held the process. I was a type facilitator. I had no problem going, okay, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, we need to all stop for a moment, or we need to get focused on this. So there's like a facilitation. And I believe that our way of doing it, even though we're very different in our coaching, is we both keep an intuitive presence that is beyond the mind and beyond all the modalities we're both equipped with, all the experiences we have, that when someone's talking, they can go, and then my mom did this, that, and I'm like, the last one, that's what we need to focus on. I can feel it.
And to your point, like, I'm not showing up. So it's different with a group versus a one-on-one, but often I'm not showing up with an agenda. I might have an idea, but it's what's alive for you and then what's actually happening.
Right.
So my mom did this, but like, there's usually something else. That's where the story is, or that's what the thing they rush over. Like, oh, my mom did this, and this, and oh, my husband didn't listen to me, but whatever, like, that's not important. I'm like, actually, that might be the most important thing.
I have found also in my coaching, so I was talking with someone and she said, my father had this woman who he said was a friend, but then she wasn't just a friend, and we all found out, and it was right after my mom died, and it was horrible, and we were all standing by the swimming pool, and then I was driving away in the car, and I was like, wait a minute. How did you get from the swimming pool to driving away in the car? And she's like, I'm like, no, can we go all the way back? So you find out this information. What step do you take? Where do you take it? And she slowed down. She's like, I took it away from my father. I'm like, what did he do? And she's like, he stepped towards me. And then what happened? She's like, then I had to step around. But as she went slower, that's where the breakdown happened. And she started trembling and crying. And she realized how much she had blocked out. And we took that block away by slowing down. And that's where the real vulnerability. And when we rush over, or we grab the chips as we're talking about it, or we get fidgety,
right.
Those are the times where our system is distracting away from the really painful core that we need to go into.
Yep. And that's been my experience, both being coached and coaching, is that it's usually the things we want to dismiss, we want to just run over, and it's like, there's something there. Let's go back.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I have the extra overlay, and we have never really talked about how much you use intuition in yours, but mine is very angel-led. So in my decade of doing this, I guess, where it's been my only job, I haven't had other revenue of any sort. I just work with people in video where they show up and I show up, and almost every time I only know their name. And they're usually referred by someone that they saw go through a transformation. And they were like, wait a minute, I've known this person. They're in their 50s or 60s. I've known them 30 years. I've known that they needed to make these changes. They've tried everything and couldn't, and then they did, and they made all of them. Who are you working with? And I get the referral. So they show up, and all I know is that they've seen the results, and they're willing to pay 5 or 6 figures to be with me. So they're committed. And I say, okay, name. They tell me nothing more. And I say, okay, so you have your guides are telling me that you just acquired a company and that company is your dream company, but it's been a really rough road. One of the things we're going to do in your container is we're going to smooth out that contract, get it signed, and get you on the other side of owning this company.
And you're tuning into their angels and their guides and your angels in your sessions.
That's exactly right.
And I've also seen every time you work with someone, you always tune in first to see if you're supposed to work together.
Oh, totally. Before we even get into that container, I tune into whether we should meet. Then we have a 30-minute session, which I just lay out from their angels everything we're going to do in the container.
Mm-hmm. So they really have a recipe of like, do I want to go on that journey?
Yes. Yeah, they know what's available to them in the sessions. Yeah, so they know that in 12 weeks we can accomplish this list that your guides just told me about. And they also know that there's no way I could know that they just acquired a company.
Is it ever anything... Like, do you ever have clients who are like, or someone comes to you and they're like, but that's not what I want coaching on. I was really hoping it would be this. And you have to sort of say, yes, but this is actually what I'm being guided to.
That was in the beginning, maybe 10 years ago when it was a lower price point and people were like, they're willing. Yeah. It's somehow the lower price point and people being in that, like that went together. At this level where people are investing this level, they somehow know, I don't know.
There's a refinement of their maybe attunement to you.
It's a good question. I almost have to ask the angels why that's changed. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. They already work this way. They're not willing to spend that kind of money and that kind of time at the level they are at. Their time is worth $5,000 an hour, right? So the payment to me is almost less than the time that they take to be with me. And they didn't get there without having a very refined sense of this is what I'm getting. Knowing when someone's masterful and how to work with them. That's how they got to where they are.
Do they come to you with a refined or their own mastery of intuition as well?
Yes. At this level, they are. Yes. Yeah. Actually, that's very true, actually. It's actually quite true. Yeah. And they all say, I've heard my angels, or I've had dreams, or I've made a $2 million deal just on intuition and I knew it was right. So they know that. And then they know that I have a refinement that they haven't had the I put 50,000 hours into this that they didn't have, and they can feel it. So I think something in them knows at this level. Whereas I think when it was in the beginning and 10 years ago and it was 3 figures or 4 figures to work with me, people were more into dabbling and trying to get what they wanted out of it. They were like, okay, I'll pay this, but I really want this if I do so. And the people I'm working with now are at a totally different level. They're like, oh, I know this works because that's how I'm the head of this global organization. And what someone told me who had worked with the best in the world. And I was like, why did you work with me when you worked with the best in the world? And she said, I just knew you could take me somewhere I couldn't go alone, and you did. They have that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you are the best in the world at what you do. So it would make sense if they work with the best in the world.
Right.
Why wouldn't you be in that category?
Right. Everyone seems to agree on that. I've never met someone that does things, and that's why I get passed around between people at that level, because they're like, wait, we haven't... They all know what the best in the world is, and they find it, and they share that once they witness each other.
So do you find all your clients through referral?
90%. Yeah. At this point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I spoke at a conference, the Evolutionary Business Council conference, and someone witnessed me blind, like who I'd never met before. And she reached out to me afterwards. And from her seeing me speak, she's like, I knew. She's like, I felt an instant connection. She's like, she's 77. I've been talking to my angels for years, but I know that you're doing it at a refined level that I wanted access to in this lifetime. And I'm getting near the end of it. And and her and I almost are in tears every time. And I said, I can't tell you how honored I am to be in this container with you and share this field with you when you have mastery above me in so many ways. But in the time that you were getting that mastery, you didn't have time to get this mastery. And I took that time, and now I can share it with you. And her sessions are mind-blowing. And then she's been hearing and sleeping with angels ever since. She's like, this is the pinnacle of my life.
And I feel like you always reflect, as I think we all do, as coaches. You will often say, like, everything that my client is being guided and we're getting this insight, but it's also impacts you.
Yes.
Right? Like, or when I did the guided, angelic guided curriculum, the course that'll come out soon, you're like, oh my gosh, what you were channeling and what was being guided, like it's so alive for me right now as well. Like it's always connected.
Yes. Okay, so when we're working with I just have to go back just to like a little bit of cosmology here.
Mm-hmm.
We all come in with a soul plan, and that all of the energy of nature as a wholeness is conspiring to take us along those soul plans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the energy of nature. And so nature operates by symbiosis.
Mm-hmm.
Only things that mutually benefit come together. And so it's not just mutually benefit, I get money and you get coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's mutually benefit in that your soul plan and my soul plan are in communion.
Mm-hmm.
Like my hour given to you and your hour given to me and the field that we've committed to.
You both come away nourished.
We both come away nourished. And every single client, and that's why I have so many books to write, because I've been front row seat to hundreds of the top leaders in the world getting the highest level of guidance possible, and then working with them for weeks, if not months, watching them implement it and getting the results. Like that's a lot of wisdom. That's like really, really, really potent. And I'm learning all the time. And when I had finished going through a really rough selling of a company, which you guided me through as a coach, after that, my next maybe year or two of clients were going through that same thing. And I kept getting different nuances of that, what it means, how it relates to childhood, how it relates to self-love or self-loathing. I got all of that. And that becomes a chapter of a book after that much of lived experience and then getting all the reflections of it. I have the codes to pass on, but in the nuance of the application for them, I get more learning. It's really fascinating. But there's not anyone I've ever coached that I'm bored by what they're learning. I'm not like, this isn't for me. I'm always like, and they come in flurries too. I'll be like, everyone right now is all about, I'm all going through divorce. Everyone I'm being guided to right now is selling their company. Everyone right now is reconnecting with their sexuality. And then I get another chapter of a book. You know what I mean? And it's something that I either just went through or I'm going through. And either one is interesting because just going through it, I get information real time. And if I've gone through it, I get that reflection information, a deeper integration of it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It's just the most miraculous.
And then the writing itself becomes an integration of it.
Oh my gosh. And yes. Yeah.
And a distillation of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. And we both, I think this is why coaches end up writing so much, right? They're really anthropologists of a certain type of issue, looking at it in a lot of lived forms.
Interesting.
Right? And with the intention of improvement, of growth. And since all of nature wants to conspire for that, the coach themselves starts to get guided to share that wisdom to help others, because all of nature is conspiring to help everyone. And if they hold the codes to help, then everything's going to help them. Right. So I think that's why they make programs and everything. And I think it's a shame when people are like, oh, that coach is a money grab. They're way too expensive, that you shouldn't have to pay a guru to get you over your mother or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Keep in mind, there's lots of coaches that don't deliver what they,
yes.
There's
That's
a whole,
point.
There's a whole range.
That's
right?
a good point.
So I think that it's about finding, in my experience, from immersing myself in other coaching experiences.
Yeah.
It's about discerning that this person has energy. I want to be in their field. I'm going to be taken on a transformation. I'm responsible for my experience.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of people who want to charge for proximity. They want to charge, so there is all of that too.
You're so right. I haven't been around it that much because I've not been in the coaching. Like, I didn't even know there was a coaching industry.
I don't know that I would even call you a coach. Or myself sometimes, right? I sometimes I'm not sure that word quite lands.
I have no context because I actually never knew another coach until you and I started hanging out again. And then I found out there's this whole coaching world. I didn't grow up with that coaching world. I don't know who the nationally or globally recognized coaches are.
Right.
I just was doing this in the Galapagos Islands of totally disconnection from everyone else in the world. And then found out other people are doing this.
Yeah.
So why would you call us why would you not?
I don't know. I think there's a nuance there that's, I think you are guiding and mentoring, and you are like a way shower. Like you're taking people through an experience, but I don't know that is exactly, like sometimes the word coach doesn't really feel like it encapsulates all of what you or I hold when we're working with people.
I have said I'm angel-led, like an angel-led strategist or an angel-led transformational coach.
Well, and I mean, you're, to reflect to you as I think but you having, because I see you working with clients and bringing strategy and, it's not lost on any of us. You have a PhD in business and economics and strategy and angel-led intuition and guidance. And to be able to merge those two things together is really, no one else in the world is doing it.
Not that I know of, and I'd love to meet them if they are. But it's and I was hired and given 6-figure contracts over and over to do strategy and execute with big organizations like the Department of Defense, and some of the biggest companies in the world hired me. And I didn't talk about angels at that time.
Were you using your intuition and angels at the time?
Always. Yeah, okay. I would be checking in the background the whole time, and we would get to a design decision. So be like, okay, well, we could do it, this size or this size. And I would just tune in. I'm like, I'm really feeling this size. And then I'd tune in and ask why. And I'm like, I guess it would be this. So I was always translating angel guidance into like pragmatic explanations for a long time. And I was just always hired because I was a whiz at it. Like, it just looked like she's got the touch that, accelerates projects and brings the impossible to possible. And everything I created had never been created before. Every single program, every single consulting contract, everything. I was like, I think we should do this. And we do it in this kind of size groups. And I would just get all the details. And they were just like watching this plan form that would take other people 3 or 4 months. So I had it in my own contracts in my own sustainability consulting firm, and never thought that I would ever overtly be talking about it. And then it got guided to bring it forward, and then got guided to shout it from the rooftops and hang out my shingle, which was so hard. And then only to have that be the differentiator and why people come to me, and then I can do it in the forefront. So good. So good. And I just find when people work with me, they've worked with a lot of people. They're like, oh, this process is so amazing, because when I'm talking about this and the therapist would say something, I always had this thing in the back of like, is the therapist right? Is this invitation, like they didn't really know and the therapist didn't really know, so they were trying to find out together with consciousness, which I think is powerful. But I could be like, no, your guides are telling me you're really wrong on this. And you're wrong because you're seeing that person as your father and they're not your father. And so they're like, oh, I wanted to know the answer. So it's always like having the back of the book. And they also are in their 50s and 60s, 70s now, mostly. And it's not their first rodeo. They're hugely successful. Like, I can't tell them something that feels wrong to them and they'll go, okay. Like if I say it's about your father, it's not about this, they have an aha moment that they recognize. They don't go, oh, okay, because you told me. They're like, oh my God, that feels like truth that cracked open, and you're right. I never connected it to my father. Now everything's making sense. Everything's dominoing into place. Like,
they have their own lived wisdom too.
Oh yeah. They are so seasoned that they know truth when they see it, and they're looking to find the blind spot revealed. And when I lay out a plan for their strategy, like the 77-year-old woman, I was like, oh, the 5 pieces that you just did for your business, and I said them all. I was like, the angels want you to tell me what people say to you about experiencing you. And she's like, they say I'm warm, that I feel motherly, that they feel smart and like that they feel like I have a smart answer for them. She gave me the list of 5, and I said, which of the 5 pillars of your company that you just created, line them up with each of those emotions? And she did. And I said, do you see how you have to flip the strategy on its head? She's like, wear it backwards. Not because I told her, she knows it's right. Right? And she's like, it's so elegant. We've been working on this for 6 months, and you just gave us you unlocked it. We knew these pieces, we couldn't get them in the right order. And so that's the beautiful thing about working with the angelic realm, is that people have visceral aha, I know truth when I feel it and see it moments that they can then run with confidence that would take any other process 3 or 6 months. So, paying 5 figures for 12 weeks with me saves you paying $250,000 over a year. Over and over again. I'm like 10% of the value, maybe, that you've been, and they know it. So it's really beautiful. And I actually feel like a lot more of us could be doing it this way.
As in working with the angels?
Yeah. Everyone has them. Really stopping and feeling in. You know, a therapist is with somebody and they bring something up and the therapist has a hunch, right? Could they really stop and really try on all the possibilities and choose the one that feels expansive and be like, oh, the hunch is this. Oh, wait, but what if it's that? Actually, that one's more expansive. That would be the difference. Because I've been with great therapists in my life. I've had many for many years, and all of them got tripped up sometime and took me down the wrong path a little bit, just a little bit. And if they had stopped and been really present and really intuitive, that wouldn't have happened. That makes sense. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's something.
Like my therapist is very intuitive.
You chose a really intuitive therapist, and you're really intuitive, right? And so, and you are working with the best in the world, right? The therapist I was working with when I was 25 were not the best in the world, right?
I mean, I've had a lot of iterations along the way.
Right. Yeah. But the level that we're working at right now, everyone is costing this amount, but everyone's worth it. And what's beautiful about it is we're able to do that kind of work at this level, but still write the books and create the programs and put out the nuggets in social media. So the wisdom is still getting shared with everyone. But I remember feeling like I'm getting so much wisdom from these one-on-one, but like if I could shout it from the rooftops, everyone needs to know what I'm learning. And I used to feel really overwhelmed. Like, how can...
There's your social media strategy that you were talking about yesterday.
Tell me more. Of course.
Well, you're like, I don't know what feels alive, what to talk about, but you could distill the nuggets that you're getting from sessions.
Right.
Not necessarily, I mean, again, taking the essence and applying it in a universal way, the same way you would into the book, and just sharing that on your platforms.
Yeah, maybe. Like the nuggets that I would love to share from the rooftop.
I'm feeling this in a flurry of clients right now.
Right.
So that means it's alive in the field.
Sure.
And so here's what's being the guidance.
Ooh, I actually like that. Thank you, Goddess.
Sure, anytime.
I actually was up against a wall yesterday. I was like, I really don't know what to do.
Maybe the up against the wall is like, I have this in my life where I'm like, okay, I feel this stuckness or I feel the up against the wallness. And I'm like, it just means something's about to move.
Sure. Yeah,
something's about to shift when I feel that, right? It's like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. It's like, okay, well then I just wait.
Just wait. And it's so interesting because part of me is like, well, I have this connection with the angels. Why don't they just tell me when I can get so much detailed information for myself and definitely for everyone else? And then I've had to learn like, and I'm still on earth and there's still processes just to go through and there's times to not know. And the angels aren't here to live your life for you. They're here to help you along when it's alignment with your will and when it's for the best for all. So, and there's some things you can't learn without viscerally going through it. Like, I mean, my back surgery journey, I really believed I could heal. When they found out my back was broken at 40, I just was like, oh, I'll heal it with my mind. I was so sure of it.
I can bend a spoon. I can heal my back.
Goddess, you took the words out of my brain. Of course. I was just going to heal myself. I was going to visualize the bone knitting together. I know how to do it. I can do it. Every night I did it. Oh,
no. Clearly you have like a bunch of steel in your back.
I have 12 pieces of metal from a surgery that made me 2 inches taller eventually.
Nice.
And it took 3 years to go from not being able to walk to running with metal in my back. And 2 of those years I was told nothing could be done about it. And this was my life. I was going to be like this forever. And in those 2 years that I thought that this was my life where I could not really stand or walk for more than a minute or two, and I could never bend, lift, or twist again without my legs collapsing because the nerve between the vertebrae that were broken were jammed, right? So it's like literally I drop a piece of paper and me and an old person on a, like, you know, with their walker, we'd look at each other like, who's going to pick up that piece of paper? And I'd go, I'll do it. And I'd have to keep my back perfectly straight and bend my knees down. And
were you just begging the angels the whole time for an answer?
Yes. Yeah. Begging the angels.
Like, I have you. Why aren't you just telling me how to heal my back?
Yeah. Furious. Like at times.
And they're like, just be patient.
They're just like, it's a journey. It's a journey. And I remember being at dance and going outside of the dance and like no one was out there and holding on to the railing of like in Hawaii, looking at the full moon over the ocean and screaming, why? Why? Just like crying, screaming, why? You know, like I've had those moments. I'm
so can you look back now and know why?
Like 1,000,000,000,000%. So in those 2 years, I read 250 sources and books for my PhD.
Like they literally like made you sit still.
They made me sit still. Yeah. And because the pain was always there, I had to find another place to be away from the pain inside of me that had always been there low level because it was broken since I was 2, but now it was loud. So I had to use mental focus to be somewhere else inside of me that the pain wasn't. I don't know how to describe it. And after the surgery, when the pain went away, that channel I had opened is where the angels came through. That channel that had been my mental focus, to focus that much on my body being perfectly straight and my spine being perfectly straight at all time and my brain consciousness being away from the pain. When that went away, I was a finely tuned, like, pen for the ink of divinity to flow through me. And there is nothing that could have trained me into that kind of ever-present focused awareness that was mind and body, that allowed me to access the frequency of the angels to a degree I'd never had before. Afterwards, I was like, it was almost too much. It would be like 1,000 years ago, someone getting a computer in their lap. Like the access was overwhelming of what I could access. I was like, oh my God. And then it was years just learning how to work with that. But it opened a channel. It opened a channel. And
there's a gift in it. And
I got the PhD, and I learned painting, like I could paint it. And I had an identity death of the woman that wears heels or the athlete or the one at the center of the party or the host of the party. I couldn't be any of those things. I'd have parties and have to lie on the couch. My friends would come to my place to surf out front of my place, what we could put our boards in from my living room. You've been there. And I just had to lie on the couch painting. I had to get rid of FOMO. I had to let it all go. Like, and all of that identity death.
Fear of being included.
Fear of being included.
That's where that came from.
Fair. Came from our friend back in Toronto, and you can guess which one that didn't like to be included. Right. She came up with it. I was like, that's genius.
Love it.
Yeah. But these are the things we go through to become good coaches. And I feel like whenever I work with someone, I want to know what codes they hold and what gave them those codes. Like, people want to know, like, how do you even do this? I'm like, well, this is a bit of my journey. And then I came out of that journey and was able to do this. And now I've worked with this many people in this way. And this is the type of thing they experience. That's a good thing to ask a coach, I think. And I think if anyone asked either one of us that, it'd be pretty powerful.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that the angels have guided us together, that we had these total parallel paths, that we were doing this work and no one else in our friend group was doing this. And we did it, and now we've brought these worlds together. You know?
Yeah.
We're giving each other codes, and we're putting these codes into Sophania. Actually, all of this, okay, let's think about this for a second. Sure. We know our clients get our codes when they enter our field. And the angels have said the products and the existence of us as an entity, as a brand, those that participate with us.
Well, that's why when we've so clearly been guided not to just drop each of our own work. And, some people are like, we're just going to found a company and that's all we're going to do. And both of us really knew clearly, not only because we're building a company and we need other revenue sources, but I knew more than just revenue, like, this is the work I want to do in the world. And Sophania draws on the strength of that energy.
Right.
We pour our energy into Sophania because we have this other work that both of us feel passionate about and both of us do.
Yeah.
And I think it's important.
It's really important. I feel like when I get to do a session, and I often do 3 or 4 a day, I'm really connected. And I've been talking to angels for 4 hours. People wait their whole lives to have 5 minutes with that kind of experience. People wait their whole lives to have an aha moment, and I get to have 4 or 5 of them per session with people, So it's like, when you have that kind of peak experience, it's like, I don't want it to go away. And I also know that I'm meant to be a thought leader. I'm meant to be on stages. I'm meant to be on podcasts. I'm meant to be sharing the wisdom. And I sometimes wonder if the one-on-one is going to go away, and it's going to go more to one-on-world. Do you ever have that sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think that strategically one-on-ones aren't super sustainable and they aren't scalable, right? I only have so many hours, and there's a potency and a beauty of holding that. And there's other ways to have that impact. And I think both of us will be writing and on stages and podcasts and sharing our voices in other ways. And and probably just for the love of it, working with clients.
Right. Ones that we really want to, there's projects. Once you're in a place like we are, it's like, I can't not do that. That's way too fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're transformed in the co-creation with the people that come into our field.
Yes. Yeah. And I also have just started to be doing live channelings in front of audiences. And I do wonder about a world where that's more of the common thing. Like imagine having a Sophania cruise or like a Sophania
like a real
retreat.
Cruise, like on a boat.
Have you ever heard about these cruises?
I've literally never thought of this.
Really?
Is this a dream of yours? We should talk about this.
We should talk about this.
A Sophania cruise? Well,
it doesn't have to be a Sophania cruise, but
I only picture is like the Princess Anne boat or whatever.
Yeah.
Sophania.
Yeah.
Or really?
Have you not heard that like they have Esther and Jerry Hicks cruises? They have forget who else, but there's people that have cruises and everyone's just on the cruise. Like so you're on Disney a boat
cruises.
Together. Nope. They're on the cruise together. But
Joe Dispenza cruise?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if Joe Dispenza has a cruise. He definitely has a week at a resort where there's
I think a week
people.
at a resort sounds lovely. I don't think I need to be on a boat with everybody.
Fair.
Yeah. You can take that one on your own. It can
I'm
be
not sure that I want that
either. But hey, never say never. I'm open to anything.
You know, it's so crazy. I get seasick.
Yeah.
And
I
yet,
can't believe the Sophania cruise
came out of my mouth. And yet, there's been a number of times I've almost been invited to like be the person hosting something on a cruise. You do not want to
be on a cruise if you're seasick.
I've done a cruise though, and I didn't get seasick.
Really?
I get seasick on boats, but I wasn't seasick on the cruise. And there was something I loved about going to all the islands.
Yeah, I loved a cruise, but I don't get seasick, and I still felt like I was happy to be on land at the end.
Yeah.
I think a week at a resort sounds lovely. I think Sophania retreats.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds
on land.
On land. In really beautiful places.
With rivers and oceans and abundance and pleasure and angels.
I might just do a cruise sometime.
Yeah,
Maybe it's the Sophia cruise.
Yeah. It might be.
It still seems like it might be possible. It's been in my field somehow. And it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It's not my preference.
Well, dating 5 minutes once didn't seem like it was possible either. But
goddess,
here we are.
Here we are. Never say never.
That is true.
Almost every time I say I'm never going to, all of a sudden the next thing, what do we want to say never?
Never say never. Well, so that we actually call it in?
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't it feel almost like you can't say it? You're like, I can't say I would never.
Let's just skip this part.
Yeah.
It has to organically happen when you say never, and then it comes to you. You can't contrive it, I don't think.
Right.
Okay.
Beautiful.
We're both trying not to say it.
Never.
Okay, well, I think we've covered our differences in coaching and how we coach and who would work with us and why.
That felt like a pretty complete.
Yeah. I mean, I'm walking away with some nuggets that I didn't have before about whenever anyone's like, why can't you do it alone? It would be like they really have vibrational codes that are a transmission in an energetic way that accelerate you at like the cellular level.
I think the acceleration is key. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Lovely, goddess.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'm grateful for your coaching for me over the years. Many, many milestone moments because of your guidance.
Same.
Yay. And now we get to just do it every day together and apply it to something that we're co-creating. It's really beautiful. Yeah. It takes what we're doing with Sophania to a new level. Maybe a level so good we could take it on a cruise.
Maybe. A land cruise.
Without a boat.
Yeah. Call the retreat.
Call the hotel.
At a beautiful hotel in like Playa del Carmen. We've been there. We already started to create it. Beautiful retreats. I think Sophania retreats are actually a real thing.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay, I could drop the boat.
You're like vomiting the whole time. You're like, I didn't know I'd be seasick.
But I kept seeing it. It made sense. Angels, why? And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, if I didn't throw up for a whole week while doing, I wouldn't be prepared.
Right.
I'm like, no more lessons. No more tough journeys.
So true.
Let's stay on land.
Yes.
Keep me on land, goddess. Keep me on land.
You won't even do a sunset cruise. You want to do like a 3-day.
Not a small boat cruise. No,
it just has to be
very
a big
different, big boat. I'm thinking of Greek islands, and I'm thinking like beautiful places you stop in. And
why don't we just do that for fun?
Maybe we just need to go on a cruise together.
I think just going on a cruise for pleasure rather than turning it into a work event.
I think I forgot the word European. It needs to be a European cruise. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
We will report back.
Maybe it's because I slept with that Greek skipper.
Oh, boy. Well, on that note, I think we're done.
It went so high. And it's a wrap.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the journey with us. We'd love to have you as part of the ongoing conversation. Join us on our socials at Sophania Beauty and join our email community at sophaniabeauty.com. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.